good morning, and happy Thursday. So I was doing my Bible plan. I was talking with Jesus. I've been intentional. I know it's only day 2, but hey, I've been intentional about God, and I am serious about making sure that I spend 365 days with Him this year. Like, I'm going to mark it on the calendar. Every day that I spend time with Him, X on the calendar, because I am intentional about just spending time with God, hearing from Him, and actually achieving what He has planned for me to achieve, planned for me to do, and has called for me to do. So, with that being said, my Bible plan is accepting God's calling. Okay, God has a place for us. God has a purpose for us. God has a calling on our lives. Calling meaning invitation. God is inviting us. God is inviting us to do something on His behalf. Okay. So, Jeremiah, chapter 1, it talks about how the Lord has told Jeremiah that he has to give a message. And Jeremiah's like, a message? This is his call. This is what he wants Jeremiah to do. And Jeremiah says, a message. I'm too young to speak for you. The Lord said, don't you say that. Don't you say that you're too young. Because you must go where I tell you to go. So it don't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're 8, 18, 36, 48, 62, 99. God said, don't you say I'm too young. And I'm going to say, don't you say that you're too old. You must go wherever I send you and say whatever I tell you. Don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you and I will protect you. The Lord hath spoken. But before he said all of that, he said in Jeremiah 1:5, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and I appointed you as my prophet to the nations. Boom. So God has called us or invited us to go wherever he said go, or say whatever he said say. And sometimes the call and invitation that God has on our life is not what we want and not what we dreamed of. God will use people. Let me make sure I get this right, because I got my notes, so I'm not playing. God will use thoughts, ideas, situations, people, but primarily his word to speak to us, okay? And so I want to focus on the people part. God will use people, but sometimes we look at the people like, oh no, I don't think you can tell me what God is going to do for me, or what God wants me to do. You look at their situation, you look at the outside appearance, and you look at but you can't see what's in the inside, because God works with the heart, right? And so God will speak to people. God will use people to speak to you. And so, but a lot of times we don't, because it's not what we want, or we're looking at the person, or it's not what we want, we don't follow it. We don't believe it. We don't do it. But God will speak to people. And then some people don't understand what God is saying because God ain't tell it to them. So for instance, if one person come to you and say, hey, God said that this is for you, and then you go tell the next person, somebody said God said, and they like, what? No. Listen, always check it with God. Don't go check it with that person. Don't go check it with that person. If somebody said God said this, then you take it back to God and say, God, did you say this? And wait for God to respond. Wait for God to answer. Wait for God to give you confirmation, okay? Okay, we're going off the little tangent here. So, sometimes what God has called us to do is not what we dreamed of or we wished for. But in Jeremiah, God said, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart. So therefore, before we were even born, God had already called us to a certain thing. God has already called us to certain people before we were even born. So God already knew. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us that God has a plan for our life. God has a plan for our life. So why do we feel, if God has already formed us, if God already knew what we were going to be, God already knew who he was going to talk to, God already knows the plan for our life, why are we still trying to figure it out on our own? Why are we still trying to say, okay, maybe we should be doing this, okay, maybe we should be talking about this, maybe we should be doing that, and then now we're all over the place. God don't even work in confusion. He's not a God of confusion, okay? He is clear and straight to the point. We over here like, okay, maybe we should make this book. Okay, maybe we should be doing this. Okay, maybe not that. Okay, maybe we should be this. And okay, not that. Okay, maybe we should be that. Stop. God has already, excuse me, my dad has dementia, and nowhere that I sit in my house, you're not going to hear him, okay? So stay focused on me. So God already knew. God already knew. He's already set us apart. It says it in Jeremiah. So stop trying. We're still trying to do it our way. We're still trying to figure it out our way. We're still trying to. No. God has already told us. God has already called us. Let me rephrase that. God has already called us. Now we need to talk to God. We need to build our relationship with God. We need to know that if somebody comes to us and say, God said this, that you know that it's from God because you have been reading his word. And now you know his character. Now you know what he sounds like. In John 10:27, it says, my sheep hear my voice and I know them and they follow me. If you are in relationship with God, then you will know that it's God. You will know that it's him. So I wanted to say that today. Make sure that you're not discrediting who God uses, the situations God used, the thoughts that God put in your mind. You know, if God placed a thought about writing a book, take that back to God. God, is that what you want me to do? How is that going to help reach your nation and help your kingdom? Then God will download in you what he wants the book about, what he wants it to be. God has a calling on our lives and we have to fulfill it. So I wanted to say that this morning. Just make sure that you're not discrediting who God uses. God speaks through people, situations, things, thoughts, and his word. Read his word. Spend time with him. 15-20 minutes a day. Just spend some time with God and trying to get closer to him so that you can understand the calling that he has on your life. Don't be selfish. My husband told me last night that my attitude stinks when I don't have my way. Don't be like that. Do not be like that. Do not be like that. I understand that you want God to do it this way, but God want to do it that way. Don't be selfish. Don't catch an attitude. Don't give up on him. Follow his leading. Follow his plan. He knew you before you were born. He got you. He know what to do for you. He know how to do it for you. Okay, and so I just wanted to get on this morning and just talk about that with you. Wanted to share that with you, and the more that God downloaded into me, I would definitely share it with you. I hope that I've said something that and explained it in a way for you to understand it, so that you can use it for your life as well. So I want y'all to have a great Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your week if I don't talk to you no more, but just know that God loves you no matter what, and God has a plan for your life, and his plan is to prosper you and not to harm you, but to give you a hope and a future. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Talk to you soon.